Welcome back to the harbor and Happy New Year. Oh, wait, I can't say Happy New Year. Larry David says it's too late to be saying that. So thanks for tuning in 2025 at the harbor. We're gonna rank and talk about our favorite films of the year and maybe a few that we didn't like so much. It was a pretty good year for movies. How would you compare it to 2023?
Man, I don't know. I would have to look at everything I watched in 2023. I would say it's pretty good. It's comparable. I mean, we're definitely this year, and I think we're going to be feeling it next year because of the strikes and everything. I think that has delayed a lot of production, and people with more insider knowledge than I have written about that. It's interesting to see where that will go. If it means that people were working on their own personal scripts in their personal time while tentpole franchises were put on hold, I am okay with that. That is my idea. I don't think writers were called scabs for writing on their own time as long as they weren't like in a staff room. Although I don't know, I don't understand. The strikes are weird. I don't understand like what counts as a scab. Like if you're promoting a movie that you're in or that you're already set to. I don't know. I don't know how it works. I don't
Well, certain
do that.
companies, indie companies got permission to do a bunch of stuff because they you know, did what they were supposed to. So
Oh
it's
yeah,
mainly
A24 being the distributor, not a film studio necessarily, as a lot of people seem to think of. They are a distributor who buy up, usually, buy up movies. I mean, they have some stuff. Man, I keep
they're
adding
putting
stuff.
out more and more, but yes. If people at home don't understand how the studio system works, smaller films hit the film festival circuits, distributors go to those film festival circuits, figure out what would be best for their brand, what they think would be a good release, and then they buy up the rights, and that's a market. And that's how they do it. A24 for the most part curates pretty selectively and in line with a very artistic style. But now they've started to like give what's his name who made Civil War. He's they've been giving him a lot of money and a few other people, but so it's just I am tired of seeing those like comments online. Wow, A24 made this movie, so it's gonna be good. It's like okay,
No, no, no,
who's
no, no.
A24? I'm gonna change my name to A24 so everyone's celebrating me as a filmmaker
Yeah, that's what Elon Musk should have named his kid instead of whatever.
instead of
Remember
Hayden
that deep
Goodman.
cut back when we were making fun of his kid, not him trying to like lobby the government from the inside and I don't know, pay people to be the top ranked Diablo player for him. Pay some Korean kid $6 an hour to grind on Diablo 3. That has to be. I mean, it's one of two things. He either did that, or like being a CEO is not that hard. It's one of those two. It's like when you hear people who are CEOs of like three different companies. I was like, well, it can't be that hard if you're doing three jobs at once. I don't know. But let's talk about movies
Yeah,
instead of
yeah.
instead
Man,
of
I want to
whatever
talk about that
oligarchy that
Fortnite
we're
game he
living in.
played so bad, but we'll move on. That I will talk. We'll start with our. If you don't have any, that's fine. But our least favorite movies of the year. So I have some.
I'm trying to think of a movie I
I
saw
have three stinkers.
that I just hate, and I avoid, I think, bad or movies more than you do. Like I mean, I watch a lot of movies. You watch more than I do, but also I feel like you, and some of the others on this show, try to keep up with things, and I'm to the point where like if I'm like this movie looks like it's gonna suck or it doesn't interest me, unless it's something I feel like for the culture I should watch. Ivan, I did see some stinkers. I saw Joker 2.
Yeah,
Uh,
let's start with that.
I'm
Number
glad I
three.
didn't see it in theaters. I was kind of like, oh man, I missed it in theaters when it was out because I was like, whatever, busy that month, lazy, I don't know. But then I'm like, I honestly the 15-minute drive to the theater was like, I'm glad I didn't do that and just waited for it to be on streaming because like I don't think it would have added much to the experience other than maybe spicing up some mostly forgettable, bland musical numbers that did nothing to progress the plot. You and I talked about this, and The problem is it doesn't commit to anything. And I'm not going to turn this into a whole Joker 2 thing that's been done to death by other people. But like it doesn't it tries to be like a romance and a musical and a courtroom drama and a prison movie and a meta movie because nothing really happens in Joker 2. It's just all looking back at
It
Joker
spends
1.
all its time talking about the first movie.
Right. Which is like you know, everybody, including you, has been like, well, now is the Luigi trial going to be more interesting than Joker 2?
What a time. Like
I
that's just the
I
circumstances
I
weird.
kind of hope so. What's interesting, you said that like Todd Phillips predicted it, and I was like, I don't know. We've had like these celebrity killers for a while. It just hasn't always been class
But we
motivated.
haven't been in such a detrimental area in our society to where people are celebrating the death of a CEO like this. So,
Well, we were already heading that way
yeah.
in the Western world with Joker 1, and then COVID happened and wealth inequality just ramped up. There's a huge transfer of wealth upward. This is starting out as a very political cast, but I don't even care anymore. We're in 2025, baby. We're going to call this cast Project 2025 because that's
Yeah,
all we're
this is
looking
the
at.
real project 2025. Make better movies.
No, no. Lady Gaga's completely wasted. The whole movie just seemed like a waste of my time.
Well, it's not
Also,
like
also, 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 there's. I've always had this argument. It's like most people don't really idolize the Joker. They like him as a villain, but and like you know, I went to middle and high school during Nolan's trilogy, and I remember people wearing Joker shirts. They weren't the cool kids, and it's like, yeah, you have like goth kids in middle America who like buy a Joker shirt at Hot Topic, but that's not the same as like worshiping him. I,
I will say there was a brief like kind of incel kind of thing with the Joker, and it was used as a meme to bash on incel virgins slash school shooters. But for that to affect the director so hard that he felt like he needed to make a movie that was anti-Joker one and shitting on the fans of the original film, it's incredible that the movie was even made because who was it actually made for? Of course, it didn't
Well,
make any
and
money.
it's the thing is they greenlit the movie because they won like Academy Awards and $1 billion in grosses off of like a low budget, you know, off of a
Yeah.
budget of what like movies should be. Versus Joker 2, which is like I don't know where that money went. I mean, it went to Phillips, Gaga, and
But
Phoenix.
it's two main sets, a prison and a courtroom. How could it cost that
I
much?
mean, yeah, and even the musical sequences are you know some
They're
of
usually like
them.
one stage.
Yeah, it's like it's you know I really don't see how it costs more than I don't know some of the other movies on this.
It's
I don't
actually
know how it got a Dune 2 budget. Let me put it
it's
that way.
frustrating. Yeah, it's frustrating legitimately because I didn't care for the first one. I thought it was too much like other movies. We've all dissected this 100 times.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
but
babies first, Scorsese. We're not the first to say that.
I was going into this movie thinking I'm gonna be the one asshole to like this movie.
Yeah.
So it's not like I went in with my arms crossed, like,
Well,
okay,
the fact that you said that because I was wondering that too. I'm like, am I as somebody who didn't love the first one going to be the target audience for this movie? And then you saying that it was like stupid and bland and pointless. I'm like, okay, well then I'm not going to waste my time.
I'd say like
You
the
know,
first 45 minutes, I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. And then it just turns
it goes nowhere.
into
I remember thinking in the middle of the movie, like nothing is happening.
it turns
Harley Quinn's
into
character isn't
misery
even Harley
porn.
Quinn.
It's like it insists upon it. So it's misery porn,
It
dude.
does.
It's like
It is misery porn. It really is.
if people
It,
at
it,
home, I'm gonna spoil this because if you don't know what happens in this movie, you will be
I mean, you're
appalled.
watching. If you're one of the handful of people, like the true harbor heads, who are watching our end of the year, which we really just do for our fans. They're not our biggest viewed video. But like, go ahead and spoil it because you've already seen it. If you were watching this, this
Now
is going to be a
listen,
more entertaining couple of
the
hours. I guarantee.
movie was just it almost turned around for me when it was such an asshole move to have the Joker do his foghorn leghorn routine. And I was like, wow. But no, then I was like, you know what? No, Todd Phillips is just an asshole. Fuck
No,
this.
if they had honestly leaned more into the troll, because I enjoyed that part more in a lot of parts. People were making fun of him or saying the accent is half-assed, and even if it is, that I think that's part of the
I was
character.
like,
Arthur
man, what the
Fleck is not a
fuck?
good actor, you know. He's not even the Joker, really.
Well, it was just like, okay, this is too much. And then the part that I think a lot of people were just flabbergasted by, in a way, it's just like, what is this really the commentary you're going for? He's the Joker, and then he gets sexually assaulted by prison guards, and then he decides, oh, I don't want to be the Joker anymore. And then that's it.
Is
And
it?
he stops
Yeah.
being the Joker.
Is it because? I mean, I always thought it was because he banged Harley Quinn and then he wasn't an
He
incel in
didn't
his
bang
mind.
Harley Quinn. That was
And
in
it,
his imagination.
yeah, but in his mind, he's like, I'm not an incel anymore. I can't be the Joker. That's what I thought it was.
No, he gets sexually assaulted, and
Okay, then
then
he's not an incel
and
anymore.
he's not, and he's true, and he stops being the Joker, and then that's it. And you would think that's it, but just to add on to it, then he gets stabbed to death, just to add to the misery. Bullshit.
No, and it's implied that that guy becomes the real Joker because, and I and many others thought this in Joker One was like, how is this guy gonna lead a crime syndicate in Gotham and like take on the Batman when he just seems like some guy in my apartment building who's
I don't
just
think he was ever supposed to. So it's
no,
like, what were they?
which is fine. I'm totally for
A
them
real
not planning
sequel,
out some DCU out of this
a
movie.
real sequel with him escaping from prison with Harley Quinn and going on to do crime stuff would have been just as stupid, probably. But
No,
so
it
it's
would
like,
have been. I mean, this
should have
movie
just
didn't
not made
it
a
didn't
sequel at
need a
all.
sequel to begin with. And then also, I don't know. I really do wish they had put Arthur Fleck, Joaquin, and in James Gunn's new Superman movie, which is the first, just to see what happens. Him and Nathan Fillion. I mean, that's the first superhero movie I've looked forward to since dude, I don't even know, like I don't know,
Anyway,
like
so
Years
Joker
One.
2 didn't please the fans of the original, didn't please the people like me that didn't like the original but wanted to see a weird musical take on the sequel that we thought would subvert in the right ways. Maybe given to a better director, they could have pulled off this weird subversion, but did not work. So that's number three, worst of the year. Number two, obviously, I watched this for some reason while I was working. Madam Web.
Oh, you watched it? Okay, yeah, it's bad, isn't it?
Yep, it's bad.
Okay, do we have to say anything else?
Yeah, there's some like bizarrely bad ADR that they did to the villain, and it's just like the most weird, obvious corporate structuring of a plot with like we have to have these three girls, and I don't know, it's just
But we have
it,
Craven.
it's fucking stupid. I didn't watch Craven, so
No.
yeah. Anyway, Madam Web,
Um,
not worth watching. Not the so bad it's enjoyable, like some people said. It's just stupid, and I'm glad yeah. Anyway, number one, worst movie of the year for me. Did you guys know there was a fourth SpongeBob movie? It's called the Sandy Cheeks movie, Saving Bikini Bottom. And boy, it stinks.
I think a lot of people forget there's a second SpongeBob movie.
Bullshit. The second one's a
I
fucking banger.
second one. I don't remember seeing it in theaters with you
The
guys, and
third
then
one's okay.
yeah,
Third one was like
I haven't seen three or four. I also haven't seen
Third
all
one
of
was
Shrek
all
3.
right. You could tell that they couldn't pick between two different plots they were going for and like tried to merge them. And it was like, this is awkward. And it was like a whole COVID thing where it's like no one watched it because it went straight to streaming. No one, there was no advertising. It was really weird.
No, movie theaters are
And
still.
also, it wasn't traditional 2D, and neither is this one. And this is just like the most straight to TV, like Nickelodeon movie. Like, it's horrible. I don't even
Did
want to
did
get
it
into it. It's just
did it go straight to streaming?
yeah, straight to Netflix, and it seemed like they're just churning out a few of these straight to Netflix ones because they're doing a Plankton movie, which I already have somehow. I'm not gonna say how, even though it doesn't come out till May, but that one's a little bit better. This feels like that same old like slop from the 2010s Nickelodeon when they kind of like started focusing on all live action shows and only had like SpongeBob and Loud House or whatever. It has the same kind of jokes as those terrible kids sitcoms. It's like that. It's like I don't think the people who worked on the show worked that hard on this movie. So I know I'm complaining about a kids movie, but it's just like, dude, SpongeBob has my respect and for a long time had my respect, and it's just sad to see what happened since Stephen
It
Hillenburg
haven't.
died.
SpongeBob has been not good longer than it's been good. It had
Just
what?
like The Simpsons.
Yeah, exactly.
But like if a new Simpsons movie come out, I'd still see it. It could still be good, possibly. Who knows?
Ah,
But
who knows? They'd all sound 800 years old. It's like
anyway,
all these straight to Paramount Plus South Park movies. I'm not watching them. You know, I liked South Park in high school. I don't need to keep up with every
it's
new
just
movie.
weird
Some
that
of
they're
them might be
doing
funny. I don't know. I'll
they're
still
doing these
catch
straight to streaming movies, but they're also like still doing a new live act or not live a new theatrical SpongeBob movie. So I don't know what the deal is there. Anyway, moving on from dumb kids movie Netflix slop, we'll get into I have maybe like one or two that didn't make it in the top 10. I'll just say quickly that I think, you know, they could have been in the top 10, but they didn't make it quite. And I'll start with the new Wallace and Gromit. Charming, fun. Nick Park still got it. The new guy who plays Wallace, great. Um, because he also played him in that Telltale game,
Oh yeah.
2012. Because the
Okay.
original Peter Sallis,
How's the new Grummet? How's the Grummet voice?
um,
That's the
uh,
dog. If you're
yeah,
listening, we do like crackers and cheese in this podcast.
Peter Sallis retired and actually, I believe, chose him as the best replacement for Wallace. And that was right before the game was being made. So people had time to accept the new voice, but it's pretty seamless. It's kind of like Rick from Rick and Morty. It's pretty close.
I really Rick and Morty. I really can't tell the difference, even side by side. Maybe side by side with certain clips, but like, I mean, I watched them.
Occasionally, very occasionally.
Yeah,
But this was like fun, slapstick, still got the humor. Incredible when you compare the animation and the seamlessness and cleanliness of like the clay. You compare it to The Wrong Trousers, which this is a sequel to. It's astounding. And
what
yep,
the improvement?
yeah,
Yeah, claymation boy.
it just looks so clean because it only took them like 2 years to make this movie. Meanwhile, it took them like five to make Curse of the Were-Rabbit. You know what I mean? Like it's just so much more efficient now. So that was great. I've been a Wallace and Gromit head my whole life, so it was a nice little Christmas treat. Thanks, BBC. And then my other what's the word for it? Uh
Honorable mention.
honorable mention would be Gladiator 2. I had a good time with that movie. And
Yeah,
I said it on this show I think once before, but controversially, I did like it better than the first one.
I think
Even
I did too.
even if it's not like an esteemed classic, but I felt vindicated when Christopher Nolan said it was his favorite movie of the year.
I feel like that is a Chris Nolan pick.
It was
Also,
such an
apparently he's making an
interesting pick.
Odyssey
Well, it
movie.
was so crazy because he picked that. I was like, wow, what an interesting pick for Nolan. And then a week later said he was making the Odyssey, and then it clicked, and we're like, oh shit.
He's in it, which I am fascinated at. Like, 'cause I'm trying to think. No one's never made a straight fantasy film.
No, never.
So I mean, I hope he goes full like Cyclops gods. I mean, I hope he goes for it. I hope he has Rami Malek showing up for two lines at the end, playing some weird deity from like an obscure line in Homer. I'm all for it. I mean, I'm big into the Greek mythology. I'm into that.
Totally.
So
Man,
I had a few honorable mentions. I'm just gonna run down the
go
list.
for it.
Um, because I mean, any of these really could have cracked my list. If I had a top 15, these would probably be in it. Love Lies Bleeding, really liked it. I preferred it a lot to Saint Maud, the director's previous work.
Yes,
Late,
definitely.
Late Night with the Devil. Looking at, I didn't see a ton of horror movies this year. I don't see a ton. With this, the exception of maybe one, depending on how you clarify it. We'll get to it. I really enjoyed it. It was a fun. I have an interest in like late night and that sort of like the eras of late night, even though I don't watch it now because who does? Godzilla X Kong, that was this year. I mean, that was in
That
terms of
goes without
fun.
saying for me, really.
So yeah, I know you liked it, but that was the most action packed, like straight up kaiju movie, certainly in modern times that I've seen.
Yeah.
They cut the shit. They're just like nobody cares too much about these humans. Yeah, we're gonna give Kong a power gauntlet, but we're gonna take like a 20-second montage to get it to him instead of making it this stupid MacGuffin the whole movie.
Yeah, it really feels like we're in that 70s era of Godzilla where they're like, we're gonna go a little stupid with it.
Yeah.
and enjoy ourselves and just have maximized the monster battles. And that's what I'm here for, you know.
A couple movies that were probably in a lot of people's top 10, but didn't crack mine. Nosferatu, which was very good. I felt like it could have been more. You and I were talking like it's one of the few movies this year's like if that was 10, 15 minutes longer, I wouldn't have minded just to like know the characters a little better or anything. Definitely enjoyed it. The Substance, I think I didn't read up on it. I don't read up on movies a lot before I see them. So it went places I wasn't fully expecting. I think
Mhm.
Dennis Quaid's my favorite part of the movie. I think Dennis Quaid eating shrimp is one of my favorite scenes of 2025.
It's so effective, yeah.
It is. I studied that movie for lenses, the use of lenses and certain like cinematographic concepts anyway. And it's really interesting
Absolutely.
how it's like it's a woman director using the male gaze to the point of absurdity, just to point out like even the movie's hypersexualized. It's I mean maybe the most ass I've ever seen in a movie in recent memory, but it's this interesting thing where it like does make you realize like how hypersexual it is, and there's how hypersexual media is, and also like there's a lot of different ways you could take it. It's not just like media objectification of women. It's like there's misspent youth. There's always the like the what if. There's showbiz. I my favorite fan theory I read, which I don't believe. I think it's just for fun. I think the substance was originally used for super soldiers. So you could have, if you had like an aging commando, they could make a younger version of themselves to go behind enemy lines and then like come back and like swap bodies and like have that intel. And so they could be like out in the field for a long time without like wearing themselves out or something. So that's going to be my sequel.
It makes
Is
sense.
oh, and this is my number 11.
Well, I
Trap.
was gonna say something about the substance
Go
too.
ahead. Go ahead.
It's like I like well, first of all, sometimes I feel like these days with satire, uh people can misconstrue the tone pretty easily. And this has like a very particular scene that like sets you straight in case you were misinterpreting things, since that Matrix kick into the
Oh yeah,
wall.
I
It's
knew you were
like,
gonna say
okay,
it.
yeah.
The kick on wires where she
It's
just
so
flies back.
awesome.
That's another reason it goes to the super soldier. It gives them super strength,
Yeah.
and they can fly across, and they can mutate into monsters and fight, Russians or whatever.
It's just so funny that like yeah, no, I really enjoyed how far it goes, and you could argue the end where she's just a complete monster going out on stage could might have gone on too long. I think it went on long on purpose to make you even more uncomfortable somehow than you already were. So that worked for me. It's not my favorite movie of the year, but I was so glad that so many people were able to get into such an insane body horror movie.
No, me too. And it's something like I heard people at a table at a bar I was at talking about it the other day. They were talking exactly about that of like how it was good that the movie went too far. I was like,
That's
this is
awesome.
pretentious of me. It's always nice when you catch movie conversations in the wild that actually seem to be like pretty well thought out.
And you risk I know we always like worry about sounding pretentious and stuff, but it's really just our love for the art, the medium itself, and the growth we want to see it have among mainstream audiences. I mean, it's just we love it so much, and we just want people to challenge themselves and try and watch new things. And
No, I'm glad that like the substance had enough of a mainstream appeal to where like Demi Moore, I think just won a what was it, Golden Globe? It was like first major award,
her first award ever for anything.
which is kind of insane. Wasn't she in G.I. Jane? Like she was
Yeah.
G.I. Jane, and that movie was like the only Oscar nod I think it
Yeah,
got was
she's been
Chris
working
Rock.
in the field for 45 years. So
Yeah. And it's crazy. I
good
can
for her.
absolutely see why she did this movie because I remember years ago when she was dating Ashton Kutcher, and I would just on TV hear people like making fun of her age and calling her old when she did not really look. She was like 40 or something, and
Crazy.
she looked great. She looks great now. She's
I
like,
know it's just like I think about how hard celebrities had it when I was growing up, late 90s, 2000s. And it was just like tabloids and paparazzi was so much harder. And now, thankfully, more and more celebrities are trying to, I hate the word normal. I'm sick of the word normalize, but normalize aging, like a normal human being and
Yeah.
not having to starve yourself to look perfect for these roles and stuff
No, in
like
the late
that.
'90s, early aughts, there was definitely like a Kate Moss. She might have been a little earlier, but like super skinny, sort of beauty aesthetic. And now, dude, I think it's because of hip hop. We're enjoying more. People are getting BBLs and stuff. It's a complete paradigm shift. What's going to happen in 15 years when those beauty trends turn around? Are they going to have to get liposuction?
I don't know. Anyway, what was your number 11?
Trap. I really enjoyed Trap.
Yeah,
It almost
totally.
made my number 10. Then I remembered a movie. Like I wasn't very good at like writing down what movies I watched this year. And I had to add something. Trap would have made number 10. It got
It's an
very close.
entertaining movie. Another movie that has a lot of comedic shit in it that people didn't seem that had problems with it didn't really see the
No,
comedy in
I
it.
think I think you have to go into that movie not taking it too seriously. And I think Shyamalan at the beginning is trying to tell you that.
Yeah.
He has the like the guard or whatever ticket guy who's like a super true crime fan. Like it's
Yeah, it's
ridiculous.
funny.
And I was talking with a friend. Yeah, I was talking with a friend who's like, she was like, that movie was like, it talked to its audience like it was dumb and it over explained things. And I'm part of me's like, yeah, but also like, I think he's trying to get like teenage girls from non-English speaking countries to also watch this movie. Like I think he wants this movie to be like ages 13 and up. And so he wants it to have like a wide range of people seeing it. And I think a lot of people, I see that criticism sometimes, like of Interstellar, even of like it over explaining things or the dialogue being on the nose. But the thing is, and Tramp's not the biggest movie, although it was self produced, so his wallet was on the line. But like, it's one of these things where like you have to understand if you're making these big tentpole movies, like you really want to write the dialogue so it can be translated easily or at least explained easily to other cultures. That's why comedies don't travel well because it's so idiosyncratic. I mean, physical comedy and situational comedy does, but any sort of like screwball dialogue or anything like that won't. So I really I enjoyed the heck
Well, I
out of it.
think, yeah, I mean, I don't care because it's
It's a
almost a
B
farce
movie.
of just seeing what kind of situations he's somehow able to get himself out
Right.
of.
No, it's to me, it's like how
It's
many
silly.
ideas can you wring out of this? Also, I didn't know until after I saw that the lead actress was his daughter, and it's a vehicle for her career. I didn't realize that. So I don't care. It didn't take me out of the movie.
Well, when there's one Indian woman in the movie, it's like,
I
well,
didn't know she was Indian. I don't know. I don't
It's
think
like,
all Indians are related. There's over a billion of
dude,
them.
if I shit one, well, I did know, I did know, yeah, but
I wasn't like looking at her like, what race is that actress?
because he's like, let's make all the villains in Avatar Indian for some reason. Okay, that's a choice.
There's a choice. Proves that.
Anyway, let's
All
get
right.
into our number tens.
All right. I'll go first, I guess.
Yep,
I'll Gladiator 2 crack the top 10.
good,
It might
good.
switch places with crap. We were talking about how expensive Joker 2 was. I mean, we walked out of that movie, and that's one of the most expensive movies ever made. Ridley Scott would have 8 cameras shooting at a time, not giving a fuck because like he's like I could die at any moment. His DP was complaining because it's hard to light for because you light generally, not specifically
And
because
of
that's
course we get that, but like also this guy, he's got to be efficient. I get it. He's at his
yeah,
age.
at his age, definitely. And he's making one of the biggest movies of the year that, like, I think ended up being pretty successful. Denzel's great. The money is on the screen. It looks good.
And that was the thing for me. So many movies these days just waste their budget and it just looks garish, artificial, et cetera, et cetera. And then this, it just like it blended any of the CGI seamlessly and it just looked big. You could see all the extras. It was all there, which was sadly very refreshing for a 200 plus $1 million movie. And that was the kind is I like the first one, but I could tell there were some restraints here and there with what they could do with set pieces and how big they could go with their
right,
stuff.
just with the technology at the time. I think the Barbarian battle at the beginning of the first one's kind of choppy. you know?
Yeah, it's just like the scope was able to widen for this and make me really
Right.
feel like we're seeing old Rome in its prime. Well, not prime, but you know.
No, in
It's
its
like,
decline. Which it is. Let me say this: it is the best movie I've seen this year that involves a declining Roman Empire metaphor. I'm talking about Megalopolis. That did not crack my top 10, not my bottom 10, but
no, it didn't crack my top 10. I did enjoy it as a
I think you enjoyed it more than I
weirdo
did.
spectacle. I think you
I
enjoyed it,
enjoyed
but then
the
let other
idea of the
people,
movie
I
more
think you
than
let
others.
other people talk you into thinking it's horrible, but that's okay.
You think I did?
I think you got talked into it.
No, I didn't get. I don't think it's horrible. I think it's not successful at what it's trying to do, but yeah, the more I think about that movie, the more I'm like, what the fuck? Although it's enjoyable enough, and there's enough enjoyable scenes that I'm into it, and I'm okay with Coppola getting to do his thing. Man, he's been doing weird stuff. He did some movie, Val Kilmer's in it. What's that movie that he made? Twixt. And it looks like it's shot on like consumer grade cameras. It's really weird. That's
Yeah,
what
a
I'm
lot of people like that movie though. Like people that like weirdo art movies.
Yeah, which you have to do. That was before he sold his vineyards
But
to
that
Sony.
I mean, I haven't seen it, but Inland Empire was shot on standard definition 2006 camcorders, so and that
Yeah,
was really effective
you
and
have to be into it. The guy's had a
really
weird career.
strange.
Everybody brings up Apocalypse Now and Godfather, but he also made Jack. You know, he's had a very eclectic career. The guy. Yeah,
But
Gladiator 2 knocks mine out. I don't really care about historical accuracy in that case because it's fun
yeah.
enough. And also, I don't. If something's trying to be historically accurate and it's not, or it's portraying itself as that, then I that's when it rubs me the wrong way. If Ridley is like, "There's sharks in the Coliseum, deal with it," I'm like, "All right, that's fine. This is stupid. It makes no sense and would work, but I'm okay with it." That's
Okay.
Gladiator 2.
My number 10 for the music alone, not just alone, but Wicked actually cracked
Okay,
my top 10. And it's just like had a good time seeing it. At first, it was like, okay, this is kind of like Harry Potter, wizard school, et cetera, et cetera. The way it was shot, they could have used better lighting rigs and like really made it a little more cinematic. And it really varied from scene to scene. And I get they were going for musical, big, broad musical, but there's just bizarre lighting choices in certain scenes. And we were complaining about that leading up to it. And it's still there, but it's not in every scene. And I will say, the more I listen to the music, the more it actually really got absorbed, and I enjoyed it. It was like a good to pretty goods, but then that final 10 minutes, which we're split on, is what actually took it over the top for me. I really like the way the last 10 minutes are paced and the build up. It leads to a very satisfying pop of like a finale for me. It makes the final few parts of the song very powerful, and it's one of the more cinematic sequences I've seen in a long time. And I was very surprised by that actually, to the point where I was like getting chills, and I was like, "This is not what I expected out of this movie. I did not expect to really dig this movie that much." And I was like, "Okay, this is effective." Now, I will say, once they do get to Oz, the actual uh,
Emerald City.
Emerald City, I mean, I love that sequence, and I love a lot of the set pieces, but especially that sequence. But when they finally get up to the wizard, I feel like that part is rushed. They're trying to get her to examine that book,
Yeah, there's a lot of exposition dumped
and
in.
he's
That's
trying
that's
to
that
kind of
almost feels like stage musical pacing
yeah,
when
that's the problem. Is like
the rest
that's
of
when
the
it
movie
does start
is
to feel
movie
too
pacing.
much like the play, and it's like okay, this just doesn't feel a realistic time period to me of oh, I'm here and now I'm gonna look at this book and now the monkeys are growing wings and now everything's out of control all within like 15, 20 minutes after you spend so much time at that goddamn school. We could have like put some more time here and a little less time, I think, at the school.
Yeah, and so one of the big differences you say I have come around on that. I would have to see it again. I've come around on the final number being slower, and it is more cinematic that way. Now, the big difference in this movie between there's two big differences in our viewing of this movie. One is I years ago on Broadway saw the original play. So I was skeptical of them breaking it into two movies, and it's still a cash grab. Yeah, kind of, but it works. And there's I knew what the climax would be going in because I know what the Act One showstopper is in the play. Um, and so it wasn't as fresh for me. Like the songs weren't new to me and stuff, so like it didn't have that. The other thing is that I saw this movie at 7:50 a.m. with my family on the day after Thanksgiving because those are the tickets I like my mom wanted to get for because she's an old lady. So I had nothing but like popcorn and Coke Zero that day, and I was like, am I not focused because this is like boring, or am I not focused because I have no nutrition inside me right now?
Yeah.
I think it was the second one. So I enjoyed it. It was a fun time with the movies, but didn't break my top.
But it was just like that fun time with the movies that I was looking for, like holiday, chilling, watching a movie that's not gonna, I don't know. It was
It
just a
no, it's
fun
a
time.
very very good. We've already done Glickett at the top of this recording, by the way. Now that we've got that out of the way, no, it felt like a fun holiday movie. I'm glad I went to see it. I think it was a little slow for my niece, but she's 7. What does she know? Um, I
I
saw it with
think
my
that
parents.
maybe I don't know why part one had to be 2 hours and 40 minutes. So how long is part two gonna be? I don't know.
60 minutes. I
No, but
don't even remember what happens in part 2 that much. I had to look it up. More stuff. She's wicked.
yeah.
She,
Okay. So now we're at number nine.
all right. My number 9 is Alex Garland's Civil War.
Okay.
Uh, a movie I think I enjoyed more than most people
Yes.
because of, again, my background. One, I used to be a journalist, not a war journalist. I covered businesses and stuff. So, not exactly the same. I never understood those people. But I mean, somebody's got to do it. You just have to be crazy, which I think this movie addresses. And then also I grew up in like a newspaper family, and so I got to like secondhand see like the news industry and the newspaper industry decline and become like less objective. News become less objective, and now we're in this whatever state we're doing in now where Facebook Meta is suggesting putting more bots onto their platform straight up. There's
Yeah.
like we
Everyone
have a
asks
lot of
for
bots on our platforms. We're gonna put more to pump up our numbers and hopefully
yeah.
get people in these weird parasocial relationships and spread fake news. But to me, it's interesting. It's not a movie about Civil War. It's a movie about journalism, and some people um critique the movie for not going into the politics. I think that is a wise decision. It is examining like what journalism is in the 21st century. What is the role of a journalist, especially in like wartime or like politically sensitive matters. I mean, it's certainly advocating for like a more impartial journalism that I'm not even sure is really possible, or if it ever was possible. There are definitely romanticizations of old journal. Like biased journalism has been around forever. The Spanish American War was because of William Randolph. We've all seen Citizen Kane. Like it's newspapers. Like okay, for example, we live in Arkansas. The Arkansas Democrat Gazette was the merger of two state newspapers, the Arkansas Democrat and the Arkansas Gazette. And the reason you have things like the Arkansas Democrat is because like they were explicitly at their like conception like politically charged newspapers, which I'm actually fine with being politically charged as long as you don't say that you're not. Like as long as you're open about your bias, I'm okay with that. But no. So I mean, for those reasons, just as like a journalism movie, I enjoyed Civil War. It is also like one of the more effective anti-war films I've seen. The fact that like the war isn't really explained, I think is good because like I hear rhetoric about a civil war nowadays just from people, and I'm always like, what do you think that'll look like? It won't look like the first American Civil War. It'll just be like factions and sectarian violence and domestic terrorism and guerrilla warfare. Like, and what would it be over? Would it be over just like weird identity politics, ideologies? You know, It's a weird thing. I do think there are revolutions and changes happening in America right now, but as one guy with the Heritage Foundation said, the revolution will be bloodless if the we left lets it be. So I think that's more what we're dealing with right now, because I think a lot of the people talking about civil war, I don't know, I don't hear a lot of like really educated people talk about the prospect of a civil war in America.
Yeah, it's those kinds of people that are thirsting to use the guns that they've hoarded up against their own people that were disappointed that this movie wasn't a war movie.
Yeah, yeah. No, I should
That,
probably get a gun,
that
but
says
also
it all.
I'm on too many antidepressants for that. So Civil War, that was my number nine. What's yours?
Mine was I saw the TV glow.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the best horror movie of the year to me. That is the some of the best body horror I've ever seen because it's real. It's a real thing that happens to people, to millions of people, you know. And I'll just say right now, like that movie, we were talking about this earlier, off camera, I mean a couple of weeks ago even, about like intellectually, I realize like the struggles that trans people go through. And I know trans people, but I'm not just like, hey, tell me about your trauma. Tell me about your transition. I'm not gonna do that, obviously, to anyone. And so like to see a movie that gets like pretty mainstream appeal that has a very open trans allegory and like makes you feel in some small way like the pain that these people are going through, and that millions of people have gone through, and most people throughout history have gone through and not been able to be themselves, or may have not even had the language to like explain what they're going through. Yeah, I love this movie. I didn't mean to step on your explanation, but like I love this movie.
Hell yeah, dude. I love this movie. And it was kind of like Brigsby Bear in a way with that kind of low grade 90s lo-fi fake TV, which I liked. And obviously the director was big on Twin Peaks, and you can see that influence there, and just like the horrors of what if I lived my entire life this way without being who I truly am is one of the scarier concepts.
And
And if
it's a
the
concept that's not exclusive to trans people, by the way.
yes,
That,
exactly.
that's another thing. It's
But
a
it's
lot
like
of
if
it's
you watch this
about.
and you can't empathize with people that are struggling with this, then I don't know what to tell you. But it is really funny that like one of the funniest things is like Jay from Red Letter Media talking about this movie and the trans stuff and Mike Stacklasa being so far away and so far removed, being like, "What are you talking about? This what does this have to do with trans?" And Jay's like, "What are you what?"
The whole movie.
And he's
Which I
like, "Well,
didn't know
what?"
that going in,
He says
so
like,
I do
"What makes
wonder
you say that?" And he's like, "Well, the director explicitly talked about it."
which
He's
way.
like,
It's one
"Oh."
of those things, like it's very obvious but not on the nose or beating you over the head with it at the same time. And I knew that going in. I didn't know that it was a trans allegory going in, so I don't know at what moment, what scene it would have clicked.
It starts in the very first scene where the character is in like elementary school and there's a giant, what are those things called? Like a
Parachute.
parachute, and it's like non-binary or trans colored flag.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, okay, we're
No,
not
there's
being
there's
subtle
a
here.
there's a ton of trans and bisexual lighting all over this movie. There's a
Yeah, it's like,
if you're
okay, yeah.
if you're into queer coded cinema and everything that is.
But it is interesting that like a middle-aged guy in his 40s who does know and understand a lot of themes and stuff like him in film could just not get it and feel
Yeah,
like
they're old.
I know, but it's like our generation really feels like the first like major understanding of the trans movement,
Yeah,
and
no,
I don't
I
know why
mean,
it's so much harder for older
ours
people.
and Gen Z even more so, younger people even more so.
But I think yeah, it's a very powerful film. It's better than We're All Going to the World's Fair. That was very simple, but I liked that
No,
movie
for
for what
a
that
second
was.
feature, yeah, it's great. It's honestly.
So very
By the way,
cool.
speaking of Brigsby Bear, I did not see Y2K, Kyle Mooney, their new
I
movie.
didn't see it either.
It's not getting as good reviews. I will see it at some point, but
Yeah, I might
I
throw it on.
yeah, I'll throw it on, but it I didn't feel like it would crack my top 10 anyway, so I didn't watch it for this.
Okay. Number
Okay.
8.
Number 8. For me, Inside Out 2, man. I was very
Wow.
emotionally moved. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And some of these movies I am very open about, like when the situation or mind state I watched this movie in affected me.
Yeah.
Um, and like I don't know,
Yeah,
I
but
was
that's
in a
all
state.
part of it, man.
It's all part of it. It's like I just straight up address it. It's the same thing as like pretending like you're not biased in your writing. It's just like I just straight up admit like this is, I saw it in this situation with this people. Same thing with like you and Wicked. It's like a holiday thing. You go with your family. That
Yeah, me
affects
and my
me
sister,
too.
it reawakened her inner theater nerd. It was
That's
really funny
funny.
to see.
Yeah, because she's been out of high school for a few years, so
Yeah,
she's not getting her fix. That is funny. Yeah, you were a theater guy. You were like a stage crew. I forget that.
I
I was
was. Yeah, I grew up with musicals. That's another reason. It's like I've been thirsty for a broad appeal musical like this.
it is nice to see a musical do well because you have like In the Heights and uh what's the West Side Story? I even forgot the name of West Side Story.
Yeah, yeah.
Not doing as well.
Yeah, this
I mean, this
movie
isn't.
still right now domestically still has made a little bit more money than Moana 2. So,
Well, that's good.
Wicked. So,
It was weird.
Inside
No,
Out
Inside Out
2.
2, I was very emotionally moved by. I had a lot of emotional problems as a child. We'll just leave it at that, and as an adult. And so it's not often that I'm seen that much. And I was in a weird state where I was, processing a lot of stuff anyway. Um, I mean, there are scenes where she's like having panic attack stuff and like not feeling like enough. I mean, I don't know. Those laid out so explicitly in a movie, it is very healing. I'm not gonna get too touchy feely about mental health because that's like the hip thing to do today.
Yeah, but
So
it's so important for kids to see this on screen.
it is. I do think it is. Because I wasn't like I didn't see that when I was a kid. I
Yeah. And my fiance, she wasn't moved by it. She's she always talks about how like the woman or girl childhood experience she hasn't seen presented on screen as much. So she always gets into stuff like that for sure.
Yeah, it's okay. That was last year. I couldn't remember if it was this year or last year. I mean, the only yeah, I thought that. I thought like there's not a lot of female adolescents, and even if they are, it's like Mean Girls and stuff. Which is still like I think an important movie for representation. But last year I saw Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, and I'm like, this is the first movie I've seen. Which, by the way, I saw it alone, and it was a bunch of like moms and 12-year-old girl daughters, and then like me in the back feeling weird. I'm like, I just like movies, guys. I
Yeah,
promise.
well, you know.
I'm just here with my AMC pass. Um, but like, it's one of those things where it's like the menstruation is something that half the population goes through every month, and I have no idea really what it's like. And this is the
Yeah.
first movie I've seen tackle that, and it's such like a normal human thing. But I've seen 1,000 boner comedies by comparison. So it's just like it's that thing. Like people get weirded out by the word representation, but it's just like no, it's just like there's not a lot of like female depictions of adolescence in movies. So I'm always for that.
It was weird. Like there was this fake outrage against turning red just because it was like 13-year-olds acting like 13-year-olds. And it's like this is how girls would act.
Yeah, but it's all fake.
It's all like hidden misogyny and weirdo fucking neckbeards complaining about shit. But
Mm.
for some reason, it's that same group of people that like they can't enjoy a movie unless it's about a man and it's their age. And it's like for some reason they're not able to invest in the story and characters unless it's about someone who's close to their
Yeah, no, it's a weird thing. It's just a
skin color
general
and
lack of empathy. I mean, that's what's
gender.
amazing about cinema. Like the movie camera as a device literally lets you show other people's point of view. So I'm like,
Oh, cool, huh?
yeah, it's cool. I'm like, okay, so show me what it's like in this country. Like I've never been to Taiwan, but I watch Edward Yang and like I understand the country better. Same thing with like I've never been a teenage girl, but like watching a movie about that helps me understand like adolescence and my own adolescence better because hormones suck. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's my number 8.
My number 8, Alien Romulus.
Okay.
Man,
By the way, Kaylee Spaney, huge year.
yeah, totally.
She had this Priscilla, which I did not see, and freaking Civil War. She exploded on the scene. Alien Romulus did not crack my top 10.
That's fine. Now, Alien Romulus, it could have gotten close to being another bullshit legacy sequel,
And at
and there
times
are
it did.
some moments where it tries to incorporate nostalgia, which is annoying, but like there's just enough freshness and interesting sequences and set pieces that I was like, yeah, I like this a lot. And like when they're having to go through that hallway without waking up any of the aliens and all that. And then, like, I don't know, the final sequence, the birthing sequence was cool. Different
I'm always
creatures were
into an
cool.
alien birth.
Yeah, yeah. And it was actually creepy. Like, it's hard for movies to scare me, but like, it was like during that final sequence, that weirdo looking creature with the Prometheus goo and stuff.
Who's
It
a
was like,
real
okay,
guy,
yeah,
by
this
the
is
way.
badass. It was
It's like
creepy
a
as fuck.
it's a real guy in makeup.
I know, but
It's
like,
that creeps me out more than anything that guy exists out there.
yeah, it's like that guy was in a prosthetic suit. Like, how creepy is that?
Yeah.
Some real tactile shit. I like that they kept the 70s futurism from the
Yeah, you
original.
kind of have to.
Well, no, you don't have to.
You don't have to.
It works in Prometheus not having that, but it's just interesting because I guess, they're working class, so they don't have the best starships.
Yeah, they're effectively wage slaves.
Yeah, and I
They're
like that. And
serfs. That's
then
the scariest part to me. I wish I
our
had gone more on that. I wish I had gone more into the Wayland, wage slaves. I know that's not why people go see an alien movie. They go
yeah.
see pulse rifles and acid blood, but
Well, I feel like it did enough new, and I like the friend of ours said he couldn't get into it because he thought all the characters were too young. I'm like, these are all people in their 20s, mid 20s, some of them late 20s. I think that guy who played Andy is like 30. And I'm like, dude, like he compared it to Stranger Things. I'm like, these are not 12-year-olds in space, dog.
no, that's his own.
I think we're just getting older and you have to accept that most movies star people in their 20s. Like that's just
Yeah,
how it is
that's
now.
how it is. I'm aged out. I'm fine with that. Kaylee Spaney does look young.
I'm totally fine. And I was like, well, yeah, also adds to it because I mean, these guys are just now in their mid 20s, but all they've been doing is working the mines, basically. That's all they know, and they just want to get out of that. That totally makes sense. And I didn't want it to be another case of scientists or space truckers. That's the same old thing, you know. So that refreshed it for me. Um, so effective scares, really cool futurism, retrofuturism, and world building, and only a few annoying member berry moments. So
Yeah, and those do stick out as the worst parts of the movie.
yeah, I will say, I should have prefaced this, but the movie is worse for using a deep fake of a dead that of a dead actor. That does drag
Right.
it down a
Which
bit. They
I
could.
had forgot that Ian Holm had died. I'll just say it. And so I was like, why does this look so weird?
And it's
I
such
guess
an easy fix. They could have just had another Andy, which would have made it interesting because he was already having trouble uh figuring out who, his own shit. Or to make it even more interesting, they could have had a David model from Prometheus slash Covenant and like, I don't know,
they could
connected
have
it
done
even
different
more.
things. They could have even just had like a puppetry of Ian Holm's face that was like wigged out and like broken.
And then
You know,
have a someone do like a impression. I would have
yeah,
liked that more.
yeah.
But yeah, so that is a major mark on the film. But other than that, I enjoyed it. Especially always seeing big sci-fi movies in IMAX is always cool. So,
We're sluts for sci-fi. We got it.
All right, number 7.
Number 7 for me, I think this does show you how much I like the top half to my list. That this movie is as far down as it is.
Yeah,
Dune
yeah.
2 is, I mean, it's one of the best theater going experiences I've ever had, and it's only number 7. So there were some good movies this year. And so I've read Dune. I read it when I was a teenager. I enjoy Dune. This rekindled my interest in the Dune world. I started rereading stuff and I'm
Man,
appreciating
what a
it more. Yeah.
picture.
Um, and I don't even know what to say to this movie that hasn't been said. It's epic sci-fi at its best. This is the best Dune movie we will ever get. I mean, it is. analogous. This was his dream project. It's analogous to Peter Jackson wanting to direct Lord of the Rings and then just knowing exactly what to do. It's the same thing with Denis. I mean, I think he adapted this as well as you could. I think thematically it pops. I think does have broad appeal, but it does feel like it's for grown-ups, you know. Um, and by the end of the movie, we had an IMAX auditorium, everybody literally on the edge of their seat, looking around and realizing toward the final battle that everybody was bent forward in their seat. It was one of those moments that was pure cinema. You know, it is why I go to the movies. It's Dune. Like, enough said.
Totally. I'll say more about that when we get further up the list.
Yes.
So, let's see. My number seven, Nosferatu. Didn't crack yours, but it cracked mine, and it was just I'd been waiting for a cool literary classic kind of horror, gothic horror movie, and this is a movie like I feel like the first time you kind of just have to let it wash over you, and I'm dying to see it again because I know when I see it again, it's gonna hit even harder for me. Um, I was also being annoying autist in my brain, and I was like, I know the theater settings are messed up here. I need to go talk to somebody about it. So I went and like, and she was like, well, we can't adjust it until the movie's over, even though I've seen them do it before.
Yeah, I did it in Gladiator. I had to go in
Yeah.
there and tell them to turn up the IMAX was flickering.
Yeah, so that theater, I feel like is having more and more problems lately, and it's bumming me out because that's where our pass is. And if Cinemark had a goddamn pass like this, we would be at Cinemark all the time.
I
Like,
think we're getting a Regal sometime later this year. I'm not sure. That might be reopening, but
yeah, but if no, I gotta have a big format screen. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like IMAX or XD, like big XD, like at our Cinemark. So it's just tough because Cinemark always has their audio and visual balanced. I've been in those upstairs in the projection room. It's easy to adjust. I just think these people at our AMC are slacking.
I mean, they're mostly like not 18 to 22-year
It
olds
doesn't matter.
doing stuff. I
Dude,
get it.
there's been those broken chairs in our IMAX auditorium for like 8 months that have not
No,
been
it's
fixed.
this weird thing with the theater going experience where like it's worth cheapening itself because it's losing money, but then fewer people want to go to the theaters because people do like the big chairs. The snacks are overpriced, but that's how they make their money. Also, what movie are we talking about? Because now we're just talking about theater
Those
seats.
fraud too.
Nosferatu, yes.
But those chairs, it would be one thing if they just didn't have them for sale, but they have them just for sale in the
To make
IMAX
money.
auditorium and they're broken. It's bizarre. Anyway, so that did affect my viewership, but I still enjoyed it a lot. I feel like the third act felt a little too fast, and I feel like it could have been
Yes.
taking its time a little bit more. But thankfully, Robert Eggers did inform us that the one that comes out on Blu-ray will be extended by like 20 or 30 minutes.
That's
So
interesting. I'll be interested to see that because
it'll
I could
be,
see that going either way. Because right now,
I'm definitely interested in seeing that cut.
I feel like it's a little too lean, but I could be corrected on that if I see it.
We're always like saying like movies are bloated these days, and this movie's over 2 hours, and it's so shocking that I was like, yeah, this could have been longer. Fuck it. It's like so rare these days,
No, it is rare for us to say that.
but
And
it's
part
so
of it is
cool
just
that he
like
got to
I
do
wouldn't
his
mind a
full
little more
vision.
development of like the main character. A lot of praise has been lauded upon Lily Rose Depp. I think she's good, but it's like everything at this movie is at a 9 or a 10 at all times. So like I feel like I am interested in seeing like more of her range. I've not seen Yoga Hosers like you have.
Yeah, well, I think she might be the weakest in the movie. I'm not saying she's bad, but I think she I don't know. It should have been Anya Taylor-Joy.
Oh
But
yeah, you think so?
well, I think
I really like Nicholas Hoult in this movie. I don't think he's getting
oh
enough.
yeah, I thought he was great. I just think Anya Taylor-Joy originally was supposed to be in it, but had to drop out. I think
Oh yeah, she's
I think
probably
she would
got
have
to
been
be
fantastic.
Doom Messiah, which I'm
But
licking
I
my
love
chops
Nicholas
for.
Hoult in this. He just has this look that just looks Victorian that I didn't expect to look Victorian. It
Yeah,
totally worked.
and now he's going to be Lex Luthor, and I'm excited.
I just love the imagery. It's so awesome.
The
And I know that's such
imagery
a simple
alone is
way to
worth the price
describe
of
it.
admission. And that's mainly what I remember from the movie, more than like any of the characters and stuff. I mean, I remember that, I remember the performances, but like
The way
if
he
if
gets
you
into this trance-like state as he's approaching the manor, and that carriage pulls up in the moonlight, takes him there, and now he's suddenly like, "Oh shit, where am I? I'm approaching this." And that is like true fear of just not understanding, not having a full grasp of the situation you're in, and being in this insane nightmare. He really pulled that part off. I
No,
love
I
when he,
felt transported in a
yeah,
way that I don't in a lot of movies. And that's, I mean, that's just a very visual, that scene you're talking about is a very visual representation of crossing the threshold, which is in every story, like as an archetype, basically. But also the way it almost invites the audience
yeah.
simultaneously via that scene into the more fantastical elements of its story is like another layer to it. Yeah, I love that scene. There's a lot of scenes I can talk about that are just
I just love how he just feels like a real unstoppable force, and he is. And you visually just having that shadow of the hand go across the town as he's coming further and further, coming closer and closer, and you can't do anything. There, like the plague is coming with him. There's nothing you can do. He's gonna sleep with your woman, whether you like it or not. Like it's over.
and she'll like it and she'll want it. And
Yeah.
also, like I might so spoilers if you haven't seen this movie or the original, I guess.
Or the original one, or the 70s one.
Yeah, the Herzog, which I forgot existed until after I saw this one. I was like, oh yeah, Herzog made one of these.
Yeah.
I'm not that well versed in Herzog, like some people. He's made a
Or
lot.
the and also there's the movie about Max Schreck making this movie, starring Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, that goes crazy. Um, but spoilers for the end of the movie. How good is that pussy if you're willing to die for it? I said that coming out of the theater. That's all I got from the movie. Is like, dude, that must have been the best nut of his life. If that was worth dying over.
Robert
That's
Eggers said originally they
done
had
unsimulated sex.
no, they had rigged it to where he's not just bleeding out of his eyes and stuff. He was gonna bleed out of his ass too, like his butthole was gonna bleed. And they're like, no, this is too fucking far. This is not giving the right tone here.
No, that would take audiences out of the movie.
But respect for him thinking that that could be a possible
Yeah,
choice.
respect for him thinking it, and then also respect for him being like, no, that's dumb.
Yeah. So, all right. That was my number six.
Okay, that was your number six.
Or wait, hold on.
Or seven. I just
Seven.
did
My
dudes
bad.
here.
My bad. We're
So
at
my
number
number six.
six.
Okay, so let me just say this. I screwed up on this. So I guess not Gladiator 2 off of number 10. I accidentally did 11. So I'm just gonna talk about this real quick. My number six is Honora. Sean Baker, we are Sean Baker stands on this show. Go see our Red Rocket episode with me on it. I'm not on it, but the Florida Project episode you and Cash did is one of the best that we've done. I'm kind of glad I wasn't on that one, so I can appreciate it more. I didn't know a lot about Honora. It's not my favorite Sean Baker movie, but it's probably his best movie. In that I don't get. First of all, I it is more plotty. It's not heavy on plot, but it is more plotty and less slice of life than
Yeah.
some of his other movies because it has that inverted Cinderella story aspect to it. It's also really funny. It's like one of the funniest movies of the year, and I didn't expect that. But I do appreciate, I guess, more of the slice of life, kind of more meandering plot. And also, I was emotionally gut punched by the Florida Project in a way that few other movies have ever done, but in a way that this movie didn't do. Um, but I think it's great all around. I think it gives a very nuanced depiction of sex workers. One of my favorite things about Sean Baker is he is able to look at like the fringes of society, sex workers normally, but also like poor people of all, um, walks of life and stuff. And he's able to examine and portray negative aspects of their lifestyle without putting a moral equivalency on it. Meaning, like, if somebody is into sex work and doesn't have a lot of options, it's not because they're morally reprehensible. He has a lot of empathy for his subjects, but also he's willing to portray certain things as unhealthy, but he realizes that they are coping mechanisms or necessities brought upon by societal pressures. Basically, I'm saying is like we don't get a lot of her, but background, which is good because this has some of the most nuanced character writing I've seen in recent memory. I think it's absolutely brilliant. You can debate the within individual scenes, you can debate what characters' motivations are and what they're thinking, not because it's muddy, but because it's that textured and complicated within the writing, which is it's great. It's fantastic. Um, but certain things like he can criticize like sex work and like needing to do it for a necessity while also not criticizing sex workers, if that makes sense.
Yeah. He
So
well I like that she's purposely very guarded. It makes sense for her character.
because we could debate how much does she like is she
Even know
trying to
about herself.
yeah, she doesn't know about herself is the problem.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And like when she's trying to convince other people that she's in love with fuckboy, that it's almost like she's trying to convince herself, like, no, this is real. We're really in love, and he's gonna like we're gonna stay married, and this is gonna be my life, um, things like that.
And my fiance was right to be hesitant. She was worried at first because that it was going to be a Cinderella story where it's like the sex worker is saved by the guy with the money, and it's like no, I knew Sean Baker had some shit going. I knew that I was waiting for the switch, and the switch is so satisfying because it completely flips, goes 0 to 100 into a Three Stooges routine that goes on for 30 minutes. It's such an interesting middle act, and it's so cool that the movie just stops and like we're gonna
It's
deal with
it's
this
one of the most
situation.
interesting shifts in a movie and interesting middle acts I think
Yeah,
I've
like
seen.
the guy just completely shits the bed basically, and he runs out and leaves her, and now she has to deal with all these guys, and
The best goons in any movie.
yeah,
Uh,
and I think to me the ending is such an emotional gut punch in a different way, but equally as emotional to me as the Flora Project and just like the way that the realistic portrayal of all you know is sex work. You have this massive intimacy issue that you don't want to, uh, you've probably not been able to even understand until now. Why is this all you know? And then kind of all of that coming out at once is pretty brutal and tragic. So I really enjoy this. And it's got the stamp of approval from many sex workers, but also the sex workers that criticize it, I feel like, are because they're also in a very similar way emotionally, and they don't realize it. So
they don't realize that sex is how they use power and their main way of expressing things in a lot of ways.
yeah, and also they have a very weird way of processing different emotions, especially with love and true love and intimacy. But um, I like that. First of all, my fiance has been a dancer and she knows the lifestyle. And so she said it was the most accurate portrayal of a club like that she's ever seen. And I like that Mikey Madison did take the time to want to portray that as well as she could with like being empowering, but also being I don't know what it's all about like these days you have to say it's all 100% empowerment for women or else you'll get in trouble. And
Right,
there,
with
for
like
some reason, there's no
OnlyFans and
allow,
sex work.
there's no nuance there, even though clearly there needs to be nuance discussed here because that is not true in the
No, it's one of
slightest.
those things where like I have no problem with sex work. I think prostitution should be legalized and regulated personally.
Yeah,
I think, like sex trafficking stuff tends to go down.
yeah,
Also like, I don't know, it's not a government's business. Fuck it. But at the same time, like, yeah, it's nobody's first option. And again, that's what I was saying earlier. Is like Baker knows how to toe that line of like criticizing something and criticizing like I've always said, just for example, of like criticizing the system and not the people in it. Like with the rise of OnlyFans, especially during the pandemic, of like to me, it's the what I see it sad about it is not even so much that women are showing themselves off, but like that we live in a society where like A, young men are so lonely, and B, people are so poor that they need to do that to like have something going on, or a lot of them do. I
And
don't feel that bad for
there's
some.
going to be long-term effects because every 18, 19, 20-year-old was sitting around during COVID, either fresh out of school or in college or whatever, and they're like, "Well, I can make some good money." So the market
Not
got
not
in.
every 18, 9 year old, but enough.
Okay, I mean, yeah, let's put on our thinking caps here.
Well, yeah, no, I just want to clarify for like I don't want to sound too boomer with this, is what I'm saying.
Well, the truth of the matter is, it's the OnlyFans market got oversaturated, overflooded very quickly, and it still has never recovered from it. And it got insane. And so now all women are on there, more women are on there than ever before, but everyone's making less money because there's, less people.
Which is the
Wait,
same thing as every other social platform.
but no, but the problem is that because it's so normalized and talked so positively on TikTok constantly about, oh, you just can make money off of lonely guys. It's no big deal. It's so easy. And it is easy. That's the problem. But it's there's going to be long-term effects of, well, I've done this for the first 5, 6, 7 years of my life. I don't have any other actual real life skills and now I've burnt out. I don't want to do this anymore, or I don't have, it's not making money anymore. And now I have to go into the workforce, into the real world, but now I have no actual skills outside of this.
And you marry a Russian oligarch.
Yeah.
And
But
that's
so
what
like,
Nora's about.
yeah, well, so that's just worrisome. So I there is definitely, I'm glad that this movie might strike up conversations with nuance about sex work. So yeah, Honora, that
Nora.
was your number six. That was my number five. My
Okay.
number six is The Brutalist, which we were lucky to see because it didn't come anywhere else.
Right. And just to clarify, there are definitely movies that made the festival circuits this year that I would have loved to seen, but we don't get press passes. We're, YouTubers. And we're not, Chris Stuckman or whatever.
Yeah,
So
for some reason, A24 decided to bless the Arkansas Cinema Society with a one-night screening the same night it was premiering in LA and New York. And so we were like, shit, we gotta catch
yeah,
this.
it was free. And it was
Because
in like an
it was free,
architecturally
but I was
interesting
like,
building.
well, our theaters usually get some of these smaller releases, at least the rave, and it didn't. It never came anywhere here, so maybe it will later. But like, yeah, we just happened to be able to
It's a
see it.
hard sell, and also because it's a long movie, they have fewer showings, which is fewer tickets they can sell. Even though it's like the one of the most quickly passing long movies I've seen.
Yeah,
The pacing is perfect. I love this movie, and I'm so glad we got to see it. How we saw it in a theater with other people who all seemed to genuinely enjoy it. It was definitely like a cinephile audience. Like
yeah,
we were probably some of the younger people there, but saw it. It was great. Keep talking about it. You got anything else to say?
yeah. Just I love the backdrop as World War II is settling out, and we're having this influx of all the people that escaped and came here, a whole new, like, you just have these new generations. Like you have the originals coming over the late 1800s, early 1900s, Industrial Revolution subset, and then you've got, especially in the early 1910s and 20s, and then you've got this generation. So it really feels like a good part of the North had settled, but also a good part of it was still in the throes of advancement. And this guy came over, and one of the most interesting opening sequences I've ever seen, where
God
he's
tier, S
he's
tier. Opening, not the first scene, but the second scene. Actually, the
yeah,
first scene
where
was
he's
a good intro.
immigrating into America and is the most chaotic sequence
One
of
of one
like
of the best sequences I've ever seen in a
what is it
movie. To
going
me, I'll
on.
say that.
He's while it overlays words from, I think, his wife, or is it his niece? Either way.
I think it's his wife at or
because
maybe his
he
niece.
he left her to
Because
come
we
over
have a whole
here.
thing where like one actor's playing more than one role in the movie,
Yeah.
and the ending of this movie confused a lot of people. But because I don't think they understood the irony
I
of how.
expected it to be like a just from the name a New York movie, but it's not. It's a different city, which I found interesting,
Yeah, it's a lot
refreshing.
of Philadelphia.
Yeah, it's
Which again,
and it's
that has, I mean, that's also the birthplace of our country. That's where the Constitution was written and stuff.
yeah.
So that there's a whole metaphor there. Um, it is
And it's
not
just I think people misinterpret it as Zionist, even though it's just the backdrop of Jews in America. Israel is being formed as this guy is cementing himself in our country. It's not saying one thing about like I don't know. It's just a it makes
what
it grander, I feel, even though this story is just a smaller story in Philadelphia. It's more of like a the Jewish immigrant in America broad scope kind of feeling to it.
right. It's not only I joked first of all during the intermission of this movie, which is I'm glad it has one. I was like, is this movie Zionist? I said that to you as we got up to use the bathroom. And by the end of the movie, it's like, I don't think it is. And the more I read about it, I don't think it is. I don't think it has a hard stance. I think part of it, I think the movie is questioning like, is perfection possible? Is utopia possible? And like, can you build something that can like last forever and like challenge the past and recapture it, but also change it? So I think it tackles the idea of like, what is Israel as an idea? Not even like geopolitically, like as
Yeah.
an idea, what is it in the Jewish mind? Which is not Brady Corbett is not a Jewish director, which is also good context. A Gentile made this, and one of the best depictions of the immigrant life I've ever seen. I mean, like, I mean, it gets compared to The Godfather, and There Will Be Blood a lot, and it absolutely should. Um, I love this movie. Adrian Brody apparently like Hungarian. He's speaking Hungarian the whole movie because apparently he grew up playing it or speaking it in his home, which I was amazed by because I was like Hungarian's notoriously difficult to speak. So I was wondering like how did they learn all this Hungarian? Oh, he just knows it. Like it's so weird. It's like when Christoph Waltz Tarantino was like, I need somebody who speaks German and French and Italian and can play Hans Landa and Glorious Bastards. He's like, where am I going to find that? Oh no, here's a guy. It's like it's just one of those roles where it's like, okay, it's written for him. That's fine. The universe just like threw it out there.
Yeah. What a picture. That felt like classic cinema too, of
It
like
was cinema. It was filmed on VistaVision, which
looks good.
looks really good. The reason it was filmed on that I read because I was reading about it earlier because the logo pops up there earlier. Hasn't been used a ton in a ton of movies, but and certainly not recently. It's an older format, but it's because it can capture wide vistas, you know, and he wanted it in a wider aspect ratio. But he didn't want to have a lot of lenses to distort the architecture in the movie because it's all about brutalist architecture and like marble and like rectilinear sort
Yeah.
of images, and he didn't want to distort those lines, so that's why he shot on that. And yeah, it's a good looking movie.
Okay. Number five. My number five was Honora. We already talked about that, so let's hear yours.
Uh, Mine is I got these mixed up a little. I will say Challengers. Loved it, saw it in theaters, watched it. It's interesting. It's a weird movie where like they try. It's I find it interesting how much they marketed this over the like Zendaya threesome scene because they didn't know how else to market a tennis movie, a queer tennis movie, which I understand. And Luca, and it didn't come anywhere around here. I want to see it. I want to see Queer, Luca's newest film of the year.
Yeah,
He
we didn't
released
get
two
to
this year,
see
but it
that
didn't
one.
release anywhere around here,
Yeah.
which is very annoying. So like some other movies, like we just haven't had a chance to see it here. I mean, I describe Challengers to people as the most toxic love triangle you've ever seen. Um, and it makes me want to watch more tennis. Tennis is one of the sports I can actually at least kind of enjoy. Um, and also like structurally, I think the idea of having the entire narrative have a core of a single tennis match and then it telling itself through flashbacks is very elegantly done. And I think this movie really tackles like ambition to the point of sociopathy. Kind of like the brutalist
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. You know, directors are into that. They're kind of have to be. But yeah, Challengers up there, great movie, and also more CG than you would expect. People who say, "Oh yeah, a good movie doesn't have CG." Look at the VFX breakdowns on
Yeah.
YouTube. There's a lot more than you think. That's one reason it's amazing, actually.
All right, number four. What you got?
What do I got?
Yeah.
Uh, I got Furiosa, man. Uh, I
My
think
number four is also Furiosa.
okay. Dude, I think Furiosa is almost as good as Fury Road. And I think if Fury Road had not come out and this movie came out instead, everybody would be like, "Holy shit! Did you see that new George Miller movie?"
Yeah.
But I think it came out like they didn't know how to market it. Um, it's weird because Mad Max has never been a huge moneymaker. The most profitable, I think, was Beyond Thunderdome. But even that, like, it's not making, huge money like
Yeah.
some other franchises. And like even in Australia, Furiosa didn't do great, but that's also we're in a like cost of living crisis, and you're and also I think like among cinephiles, the reputation over the past six coming on no I said six almost 10 years for Fury Road, Jesus Christ. Um, I think the reputation has grown, but also like I think people have short memories, and also like for your average moviegoer, they're not like us. They're not salivating at the idea of a Furiosa movie, which is sad because I preach that movie. I told people to go see it. I think it's great. I saw it with my dad. Um, that was my birthday gift.
But I
He's
still think it's bizarre that it underperformed to the point that it did.
I do think it is bizarre and like disappointing that
Can't
under
even like I
that
can't
hard.
even explain. Like I can't even pull I don't know why.
I mean,
It's such a
maybe
cool movie and it was I think it was foolish for anyone to go in thinking it would beat Fury Road.
no, it's a different
I
movie.
think Fury Road was just this weird lightning in the bottle thing, but like also it took a while for people to accept that it wasn't going to be the same kind of structure of this nonstop chase for 2 hours. This is a different kind of movie. It's more of like an epic in a way,
Yeah, exactly. That's
and it
why it's
takes over way more time, and it does take its time, and it's more of a slow burn, which is interesting for a Mad Max movie in a way. I'm not saying it's a slow burn, but I'm
I mean
saying
compared to Fury
comparatively.
Road, but that because that movie just doesn't stop once it
So I
gets
think
going.
it's definitely one of those movies that people have to sit on a little bit longer than Fury Road. You come out of Fury Road, your hair's like blown back, and you're like, "What the fuck just happened?" This is a cool movie, but you kind of have to get a couple things out of the way uh, and accept, and then you rewatch it, and you're like, "Oh wow,
And
okay."
there's also the argument that it's like too heavily tied to Fury Road. It's too much of a sequel, and that it lives in that like narratively lives in the shadow of that movie. Which is
But
interesting because this whole movie is asking like questions about legacy and legend and myth and like what happens. Because like the way Miller kind of describes it is like all these characters, these are almost like campfire myths, like modern myths that are being passed around. Like, oh, the Wasteland War, Furiosa, that
but it's like this is the movie he's wanted to make for a while now, for years, and Fury Road, I guess, was the more cheap one he could do because this leads straight into Fury Road. So if you watch this one and then Fury Road back to back, it's like very seamless 1-2 punch of a duology. And so I feel like if they could have made this first, it would have definitely been more iconic.
Yeah, but
But
dude, so many people would have been complaining that Mad Max isn't in it. I mean, they're complaining about this one anyway. They were
well,
complaining that he wasn't in Fury Road. He absolutely was, but I don't
but
care.
yeah, I love a lot of the. First of all, it's got the same kind of striking imagery, especially when the mom is like crucified at the beginning and stuff like that. And then I love the bullet farm sequence with Chris Hemsworth. I love the more down to earth kind of finale where it's just him and her in the desert and it's not this big explosive event. And I like the mythology that it adds without going way too over the top with anything. Like we get this glimpse of the 40-day war or whatever it is, and it's just enough of a taste to where you're like, oh shit. And it is softened a bit because you are so used to at this point, like how the world works enough with like the War Boys and the Bullet Farm and Gas Town and all this stuff. But like, I was here for it. I was totally fine with more of that. And it's like I've even read the comics and which tie even into stuff more, and you can see that this Furiosa stuff has been around in George Miller's head for years, over a decade, more than that. And it's like, okay, so this is what he's been wanting to make for a while. So it's not like it's people just some general audiences, they have this idea like that like it's a problem where you think studio made this movie or something. Like they're like, oh, Warner Bros. Just wanted to cash in on Fury Road, so they made a prequel movie starring a woman. It's like, how dead brained and outside of this can you be to say something like that? It makes no sense.
It's just people. I don't know who you're talking about, but whoever they are, it sounds like they're on just film
Dude,
bubbles.
film Twitter is a very
I'm not
nasty
on film
place.
Twitter. That's
Never
why I
go
don't know
there.
these people.
That's like the wastelands.
It is the wastelands, dude. And I'm above it. I'm Immortan Joe. Okay.
It's just a bummer because he's another auteur in his 80s that's probably never gonna make one more Mad Max movie.
Oh, he should sell his vineyards and make it.
Oh shit! Why did I freeze up?
You did freeze up.
Oh, you should have said something.
I thought it was gonna fix itself.
Uh-oh. There I am.
There you are. All right. Let the bit rate come back.
But yeah, Furiosa. Furiosa.
That's great. What number are we on?
3.
Okay, I'm on 4. I fucked up. But so I'm gonna give you my number 4. Maybe this is my number 5. Furiosa is probably a better movie than
So you had
this.
like a top 12.
Yeah, maybe. Um, Number 4, I put The Wild Robot. I
Okay.
That is one of the best animated movies I've seen in a long time. And like I said, um, I will gladly say, hey, one of the reasons I like this movie is because the situation I saw it with. I took my niece to see this movie. I was like, hey, I didn't say this, but I was like, hey, there's a Kino Kids movie coming out. Like, I didn't say that to her, but like,
Thank
I
God.
took my 7-year old niece, and now my niece, she's very smart, very precocious, loves to read, like wants to be an engineer, is not an iPad baby, has a good attention span, but for some reason just doesn't really like movies all that much. She doesn't hate them, but like she doesn't really like them all that much. She's not like me growing up on VHS tapes and stuff. So like I not that I need her to be, a movie nerd, but like I just want to like, give her some culture, do the cool uncle thing. And like the only other movie I took her to see, which was a year ago, was the Mario movie, which is, not that great as a movie. It's barely a movie. Um, I think the reason I love The Wild Robot so much is like, it's a movie I could tell like really resonated with her, which is not common. But also like I resonated with, like I got teary during parts of this movie. Because like a lot of animated movies, it has themes of like parenting and childhood and coming of age and all that. But also like it's unsanitized. It's still funny, it's still kiddie, but it's none of this like in a lot of animated movies, you might have some character die and then people are crying, but then oh no, it turns out they're all right. They didn't actually die. In this movie, like when something happens to a character, something happens to the character, because it's partially about like how life and nature is nasty, brutish, and short. So it has this weird existential aspect to it too, as well as like a climate aspect to it. It also made me think a lot about parenting. I don't know. I'm a 31-year-old man. I think about fatherhood sometimes. I don't think it's for me, but I was very emotionally invested in parts of that. And also, it's one of those things like it's cliche, but like I've heard people and like talk to people who become parents and they talk about how that makes them like relate emotionally to movies differently. And I could even tell that in just a small way, just like seeing that in the theaters with my niece. Also, I just legitimately love the movie. I think it's beautifully, animated, and the artistry is great and the story is good. This is great. I really enjoyed it.
Beautiful. Okay. Number 3. What's your number three?
My number three. Okay, we're back on number three.
Yeah.
Um, I saw the TV Globe. I really love that movie. I mean, and that is, I was stunned when the credits rolled. I mean, I saw it with a friend of mine, and we talked about it. And it was, I mean, there was that moment of silence after an impactful ending. Um, that's the best horror movie of the year. That is the most horrific movie I've seen all year. Because the idea that there have been and are millions of people who can't live their lives and be themselves because they're trapped in their own bodies is it's a horrifying thing, honestly. And to see it depicted as such, and to know that the filmmaker like had to go through that journey herself, like it's something um like I wouldn't wish on anybody, which sounds weird. It sounds like I'm saying I don't want people to be trans. Like I just don't want them to have to go through that. And I know they do to some point. And also like, but like I said earlier when we were talking about it, it was it doesn't just have to be a trans allegory. I am somebody who has felt stuck in life and has escaped too much into media and escapism and has, spun his wheels in life at times. And I relate to all that immensely. I'm feeling pretty stuck in life right now and needing to change. Um, I think is one of the most emotionally impactful movies I've seen this year and in a while. I was blown away by it, honestly, and it was inspiring. It's one of those things that like inspires me to write and like do my own stuff and to be myself. One of the interesting things about like queer cinema and queer fiction or what have you is like it's all about self-actualization. And it's in this movie, it's very much through like a gender lens, but like anybody can take that message of like self-actualization and apply it to their own life. It doesn't matter if you're cis or trans or what.
Yeah. Don't waste your life, kids. Don't squander it because
Don't
of what
squander it.
people.
Watch us instead.
No, but oh man, I saw that right before I went on vacation last summer and then had to sit on it all summer because no one else watched it. Yeah.
Yeah, I watched it last month. It was
But
one of the caught up
yeah.
on.
Okay. Number three for me, Dune Part Two. What a film. Sci-fi epic. Like you said, we saw an IMAX, big, beautiful. I honestly I like it slightly better than one, but not by much. I really do like part one, and I like how they are such a great part one and part two to each other, but still distinctive in their styles
Yes.
somehow. It's pretty impressive, really.
It's cliche, but like Dune 2 is such an Empire Strikes Back sequel. Like it's just everything bigger and darker and better.
I love, like, some people will complain that they think Denis Villeneuve's approach to Dune is like a little too minimalist in style, but I think it's just the right level. I think he's still keyed in on a very interesting aesthetic for it. I do like some of the more weirdo creatures you see, some shit you see in David Lynch's version, but like here it just all works in like a very clean way while still being big and bold and beautiful.
And
And
the really weird stuff doesn't come until the later books, you
that's
know.
fair.
So it's
But
people
some of the
say
art direction is very interesting in David Lynch's version. But I mean nothing beats it when it like on the big screen and you're seeing the final advance and you're seeing the three sandworms come up behind them and stuff. It's just like breathtaking. A lot of breathtaking
a
sequences.
lot of breathtaking. I mean, like I said earlier, I just got chills when you said that because all time movie moment, like all
Yeah,
all
some
time movie experience is watching the final battle with Asada occur and being in that audience and everybody being on the edge of their seat in IMAX.
yeah, incredible. Really incredible sci-fi. And I came out of that saying back when it came out like this is doing for me what contemporary Star Wars has unable to do. And that's
Yeah,
sad.
to instill you with a sense of wonder. Yeah,
Yeah, just great grand scale time at the movies of like operatic and it feels like an event. Star Wars no longer feels like this event and no longer feels like this big space opera to me.
No.
It's
You watch any
being
more Skeleton Crew?
no.
Okay. That tells you that.
Yeah, compare Skeleton Crew to Dune Part 2.
Yeah, bit of a false comparison, but I know what you're
No,
saying.
yeah, but not really in a way, but not. What a movie.
What a
All
movie.
right, number two.
Okay. I considered putting this my number one because this is inarguably one of the most impactful movies I've ever seen
Oh,
to
so
my
it's also my number two.
and yeah. And it, I mean, arguably the most impactful movie I've ever seen. And I feel almost silly saying that, and you'll see why. Zone of Interest. We saw this Holocaust movie at Disney, by the way, with and you and they our theaters were sold out of the Dune 2 buckets, but they had them there. So you saw this movie with the Dune 2 bucket.
Which I kind of regret later because it was pretty tone deaf of a situation.
Yeah, you could have got it after. But
I enjoyed my popcorn while, you
yeah,
know,
you can have your popcorn while watching,
horrors
or not
beyond
even
my
watching,
comprehension.
listening
Yeah,
to Jay.
listening to horrors.
Here's the thing. No, I described it to a friend who's I was like, I described it as like you don't see the Holocaust, you hear it. And he was like, holy shit. He's not even a big cinephile. He likes
Yeah.
movies. Like that was one of I described that to him, and it like that sentence alone disturbed him. So this movie's great.
First of all, it
Again,
came out in December 15th in 2023.
yeah, but we didn't
Technically,
it didn't come to
in a
theaters.
limited release. So, we're not counting festivals for this list. I know it was already at the Oscars in 2024, but I can't help that. We didn't see it until February.
Yeah.
So that's just our list.
Yeah,
So,
and we were out of state when we saw it because
and we
that's
wouldn't have
Orlando
probably
had.
been able to see it. It didn't really come to many places here
No, because we have a friend who lives in Orlando, and she got to see like 100 movies in
because
theaters this year
this
with her
this
AMC pass.
theater at Disney World has so many screens.
It's
You
like
can watch
36.
anything you ever want.
Yeah, it's
It's
insane.
insane.
Woke Disney has queer with Daniel Craig there right now, dude. Probably making more money than whatever that Wish movie was.
Oh man, Jesus.
But okay, so why is Zone of Interest so impactful to me? Well, Zone of Interest is about compartmentalization. It is about what the human mind is able to ignore and our own atrocities. It came out just coincidentally enough. First of all, around shortly after the October 7th attacks in Israel. And so it's interesting to have a Holocaust movie, which, by the way, this is a Holocaust movie unlike any I've ever seen, which I didn't think you could do. You would think as a genre, it's weird to say that's been almost milk dry, but you got to make it. Um, this is a movie about compartmentalization and things we can rationalize. And what it made me think about, and it's something I have been thinking about for a long time, is industrial farming practices, how bad they are for the environment and how bad they are for animals. Because I have no problem with like humanely raising an animal and then humanely slaughtering it to eat. I really don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with like deer hunting or anything like that where they live out in nature and then have a relatively quick painless death. But like this movie made me think about that and the sort of large scale processes under capitalism that I am like complicit in one way or another. And like this movie made me a fucking vegetarian, is what I'm getting at. Which it almost sounds ridiculous to be like, yeah, I saw a Holocaust movie at Disney and then I stopped eating meat. Like that's a ridiculous thing to say.
Yeah.
But like just because it made me question my own ethics and think about the ethics in my own life so intensely that I like after I saw the movie, like pretty much that day, I was like, I don't really want to eat like I even the rest of the vacation like wasn't eating meat. And I mean for that alone is number two. It's also just a great movie that makes you think. And is absolutely harrowing. You and I also had an interesting experience where like you were mortified by the movie and like very emotionally moved and like depressed after, and I was very emotionally checked out and numb.
I
And those were
I teared up and choked up in that movie six fucking times.
yeah, and I was like dissociated almost, which also just tells you like those are both valid ways to watch the movie. Those are both
Totally.
valid emotional responses.
Totally.
And I think it also tells, it tells you about my personality and how I cope by just like dissociation and such.
Well, it's
Um,
also this thing of where my own people were being ethnically cleansed just 25 years ago. So it's like Holocaust movies hit me extra fucking hard. So,
Yeah,
oh man,
Albanians for those
it was
not.
just it couldn't be funnier after the fact that we were that emotionally fucked up at Disney World.
Yeah, and then you're like,
It's
well, do you
funny.
want to go get some ice cream?
But I just the gut punch when it cuts to the actual contemporary shots of the gas chambers and stuff.
Which is there's a lot of ways to read that.
Yeah. Uh I couldn't even like my mind was just trying to escape from itself during that movie, but it couldn't.
But
Oh
that's
man.
what's interesting about the movie is because like it affects our minds in that way. Our minds while watching the movie are trying to like rationalize what happened, what was essentially an irrational act by civilization.
Yeah.
Um, and that's also what the main characters are doing. They're having to like rationalize what's happening and like filter through it and like put it in its place in history or not. And the audience is doing that at the same time, and you're very confronted with it very directly at the end. So you also have to like go through that cataloging process.
I do want to shout out real quick Jesse Eisenberg's A Real Pain because they do go to Poland on this kind of personal trip. And when they do go and tour these gas chambers, there's no dialogue. They just walk around and look around, and which says everything it needs to say. And then they go back, and then after that, they start speaking again normally. That was effective. I could tell. Oh shit.
Yeah, you're really messing. You're really laggy and stuff too.
Oh shit. Hold on. Lousy Democrats. There I am. So yeah, good year for Jewish cinema.
There's some jokes in there that I'm not gonna tell.
No, yeah, but I mean, it affected us that greatly. But it was still at number two for both of us.
Right. So
So
I'm very
what was your
interested.
number one?
I'm trying to think of what your number one would be. Of what we haven't said and what I know you've seen this movie. For me, dude, we already talked about it. Brutalist is number one, baby.
Hey,
It hit me so well because it's one of those movies that we talked about this during the intermission. Like it's inspiring and how they got it made. And when you read about how Brady got it, I mean, he spent 7 years trying to get this fucking movie made. Relatively young director. I mean, a little bit older than me. He's like my brother's age, so it's kind of not that it's a race, but I was kind of like, oh shit, I need to start working on my
kick in the
own.
ass.
Yeah, yeah, it is a kick in the ass. Like, goddamn. Because we watched it, I thought that director would have been like 65 or something.
Yeah.
Because like I thought he would have been like born in 1950, like when it happened. I'm like, no, this is just the director is really interested in brutalist architecture. The way he described it, he's like, I'm attracted to minimalism and maximalism, and brutalist architecture is both, which is such an interesting way of framing
Yeah.
it, but especially in that movie, the way it's used. But it really is. And I mean, we don't have time to get into it now, but the whole movie, first of all, I joked like the whole movie is don't sell out to Gentile interests, which is kind of true. But it is like very directly about the conflict between art and capitalism, and capitalism and self-expression, which I think anybody, especially these days, can understand. I mean, I in some ways I almost feel like art for art's sake. I mean, even though I think it's in MGM's logo, technically, it's an old-fashioned idea. As things have become more risk averse, and even in the way that like you can't just have a hobby now. You have to monetize it. Like you can't just crochet stuff. You have to have an Etsy store. You know, like you can't just paint. You have to have an Instagram. Just stuff like
Yeah.
that. Which is not what this movie's explicitly about, of course. But like that all ties into it. It's about systems and systems of oppression and how escaping one can only bring you into another. And like, what can we do? Like, what is art's ability to deal with oppression? And with these oppressive systems, like, can it, can art heal trauma? Is that a valid way of doing that? what is the
Yes.
role of ego in art? You know, how much room is there for it? Because on the one hand, like I almost feel like I need more of an ego. But at the same time, I see other people who are brilliant artists. I mean, in my own life, who I see ego gets in their fucking way. You
I
know,
metatextually engineered one of my films to be a form of self-therapy and it worked. So what can I say?
that's lots of people. I mean, that's freaking Bergman with the Seventh Seal. He was like, I'm really scared of death. Let me just make one of the greatest movies of all time to get over it. And it worked. He said like it really helped me
Hell
process.
yeah, he did.
And I'm like, great. And we get, Max von Sydow playing chess. So like win-win all around. So that's a beautiful thing. And if I had my thoughts more collected, I could talk more about it. Also, we could do a whole episode just
We've
on
seen a lot of movies this year.
yeah.
Or, there's a lot of movies, all of these movies we could do their own episodes on, you know.
Yeah,
It's just
I could do an
insane.
episode on any one of these. Yeah.
All right. Number one for me, might be surprising. Challengers.
Okay.
Movie I did not expect to go so far with me, but it's the most entertained I've been at the movies this year. It's also the most refreshing plot structure I've seen in years and years. And I just
Yes.
love the buildup because the entire time it keeps cutting back to different times of the past. And you think, well, surely we're caught up now. We're in the present, right? Nope, we still got stuff to come back to in shocking ways with revelations you're not expecting. And just this surprising emotional impact of when she goes down and she has sex with fuck, what's his name? Zendaya's character and then yeah,
The
anyway.
the scruffy one or the her husband?
Yeah.
The scruffy one.
I've seen this movie three times in theaters and now I'm having trouble remembering their names.
Right.
But and then she comes back up and that choir is playing and she looks in and realizes he's not sleeping. Her husband isn't sleeping in the bed. He's sleeping in the bed with his daughter because it's just, oh man, that's
The
just
family man. No, that's
brutal.
great. That whole scene is devastating.
Yeah. And
Which
it's
by the
like,
way, can I say something stupid I realized about this movie
what?
yesterday? Or
Uh,
something is stupid of me, not of the movie. I thought the guy who plays Art,
oh,
the
Art and Patrick. That's it.
yeah, Art and Patrick, I thought that was Donald Gleason. It's
Oh,
not.
yeah,
It's
that's
Mike
pretty
Funds.
stupid.
They look really similar to me. I don't know why.
Okay.
And then he showed up in the Bike Riders, which was okay. Jeff Nichols, Arkansas director. I was like, wait a minute, is this Donald Gleason? I just and then I put it together.
I'm
The
the spy.
challengers, and it depends on when you ask me, because again, so many of these movies, like the rankings are interchangeable
Did you
depending on.
see did you see Challengers once?
I saw it twice.
Okay.
I enjoyed it more the first time.
Oh,
Um,
weird.
and well, I saw it first time in theaters and second time at home with somebody who I think liked it but didn't like it as much as me, and that might have affected. So that actually knocked it down a bit for me. Um,
Weird.
but I mean, because for a while I thought Challengers might be my number one of the year. And it's still up there. I mean, I might see it a third time and be like, okay, this bumps up to like number three or something. Yeah, Challengers is great. And if you had told me like a tennis movie would be one of the best movies of the year,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have
It-
thought it would be for me. I like some of them are cliche, but like something, for instance, like something Kevin Smith said while he's in the Criterion Closet. He was like, "I'm not a baseball guy, but I love baseball movies," and I kind of understand that like mentality of like there are certain sports movies like I'm just into regardless of the sport. And this movie is obviously tennis is a metaphor, which is a very obvious metaphor for me, but some people apparently was lost on because we're
Yeah,
portraying in
Trent
better,
Reznor and
smarter than
Atticus
we are.
Ross elevate it to insane degrees. Because at first you're like, this is a weird choice, like 90s, like almost like house music for this. But then you get the rhythm of it and you realize the rhythm matches the movie as well as the editing and the composition because the whole movie is tennis. Zendaya says early on that relationships are tennis. And then you see this in one of my favorite sequences is when they're arguing when sex isn't initiated because all she can think about is tennis and then they get up and they start squabbling and when they start arguing the camera starts batting back and forth like an actual tennis racket, an actual tennis match, like they're following a tennis match. And the music that you would normally only hear during tennis up until that point suddenly is pumped in and it's high energy and you're like, oh shit, this whole thing is tennis. And then of course there's the outside idea of Zendaya is being the ball hit between the two guys. The whole movie is tennis. So there's like three layers of tennis in this movie. And they brought their game. I'm glad Reznor and Ross just won their Golden Globe for it. Man. So,
Well deserved. I mean, I was bumping that soundtrack just on its own to get me hyped for stuff.
oh yeah, I've listened to it all year. If Vampire Weekend hadn't come out with a new album, that would have been my Spotify Wrapped number one. I adored that movie. So, surprisingly. Anyway, that's my number one film, and I was shocked to say it, but because I've
You
never
know,
watched more than 10 minutes of tennis in my life. But
I think I don't know. Racket sports make more sense to me. I guess because I'm operating a tool and not just my own body, so I feel less like a I don't know idiot
I'm
because I
so
can.
bad at all sports.
No, I'm not good at it. What are you looking forward to next year or this year? I guess 2025.
Ooh, what am I looking forward to?
I'll tell you mine while you think because I had to
Yeah,
look stuff up. Mickey 17, whatever the fuck that's gonna be.
yeah,
Bong
yeah,
Joon-ho and Robert Pattinson,
yeah.
sci-fi. Say less. That's all I need. That's all I need to know. I'll see it. Um, I am curious. How are they gonna wrap up Mission Impossible? You know,
Oh man, if
because
it's
you
as good
love
as the
Dead
last
Reckoning.
one,
I really like it, but you loved Dead Reckoning. Um, so Avatar 3 is supposed to come out.
it is.
I'm looking forward to it. I like Avatar 2 better than Avatar. If I like Avatar 3 more than Avatar 2, the same way I like Avatar 2 more than I like Avatar 1, it's gonna be amazing. Um, we'll see. I've He's been hyping. Who was it? I think during interviews for 2, I think Zoe Saldana, she was like, "This movie's good, but wait until you see the next one." She was like,
That's crazy.
yeah, like so. I don't. I'm excited for that. I'm excited for Superman, and I'm sure A24 will distribute a bunch of movies I haven't heard of that are going to be great.
Let's see. We got the Minecraft movie in April.
Dude, it looks
God,
so bad.
I
I'll
forgot about
probably
that.
still see it.
I'm
I mean, we
definitely
got a
not
lot.
gonna
We
see it.
got Happy Gilmore 2. You know, we
Gives a
got
flying fuck.
yeah. Some of the stuff I forgot is coming out. Tron Ares.
Hey, I hope it's good.
I never saw Tron Legacy. You saw it in theater.
Foolish. What a foolish fucking thing.
Yeah, you
If they would re-release that in IMAX 3D, I would come fucking buckets.
yeah, we got a Naked Gun remake, which I'm not.
I hope that's good.
I mean, it
Liam
would be cool.
Neeson,
It would be cool if we could get some sort of
I hope that brings back
resurgence of
fucking
slapstick. Yeah,
slapstick spoof in a good way. Because if they pull it off, Liam Neeson playing the straight man, it could work.
yeah, he's funny in a million ways to die in the West. I like that movie more than most people. It's not a great movie, but there are jokes in that movie I really like.
Yeah.
Um, no, yeah, we got a few more things. We got new Paul Thomas Anderson, the Battle of Bacton Cross, whatever that is. Um, I'm just looking over stuff. Predator Badlands. Prey was pretty good. I wasn't blown away by it, but yeah. So we'll see, man.
You got the Thunderbolts, which I don't think many people care about.
Dude, no. I do wonder after like 3 rounds of reshoots what the new Captain America is going to be like. I mean, I'm pretty sure they shove Giancarlo Esposito in the movie during reshoots to be like, hey, we need Gus to amp up this movie. They took like the Far Cry 6 approach of this franchise is waning in relevance. Let's put Gus in here.
I will say I'm looking forward to the new Pixar movie Elio because it's an actual new original that isn't just being shoved off into Disney Plus. They realized that was a mistake because
So
oh,
many people are realizing shoving stuff on streaming is a
it's
mistake.
like Pixar deserves to be on the big screen. And this is about a kid who accidentally becomes the representative for Earth, like an ambassador.
That's a funny idea. That's an
So,
idea I've thought of as a kid. It's like, what if I accidentally got picked to talk to the aliens?
so that comes around my birthday. I'm hoping that's good. Dude, enough with the fucking Jurassic World movies, god damn it.
They make money.
Jesus Christ.
Dinosaurs make money.
This one's called Rebirth.
Okay,
Oh,
I normally don't just read stuff from Vulture, but I got to read this. 28 years later, when there's no more room in development hell, dead franchises will walk the earth, is what they say. Which I mean, I'm into. It's Alex Garland and Danny Boyle.
Daniel Boyle makes some decent movies.
I haven't seen 28 Days Later since I was
I've only seen the first one
13.
in high school, so
Yeah, I saw it in middle school when it was the zombie craze. So I didn't see Weeks either. So we'll see.
I'm so interested to see what this Trey Parker, Matt Stone, and Kendrick Lamar movie is going to be.
About that. Those are three of my favorite people, but I
That
would
comes
never
out in
expect them to
July,
work.
July
Dude,
4th.
here's the thing. He the Trey Parker and Matt Stone, they can direct musicals. They've done it. They did Book of Mormon. They did Team America and South Park. Like, I'm interested. I'm down.
Shit.
All
Other
right.
than that, I don't really know. I'm not
We'll
enough.
see.
I feel like
2025 will be nothing if not interesting for this and more. We'll see what the
I'm not
fuck's
seeing
gonna
a
happen.
ton that I'm like super interested in, but
Yeah, I've
you
never
know.
seen it. The new Wicked, Wicked 2, Wicked for
Oh
Good.
yeah, well that's so far away.
Yeah, I don't know about Paddington. I need to see the others.
Oh yeah. And then hmm. I forgot they're remaking The Running Man.
Okay, why?
Do you ever see that movie?
No,
Yeah, it's decent. Yeah, it's fun. You know, I like anything with Arnold pretty much. But
Jingle All the Way.
you know, that one's okay.
All right. Anything else
Other
to
than
say
that, no,
about 2024?
I'm hoping I'm hoping they re-release Revenge of the Sith in theaters so I could see that in IMAX. That would be fun. For its 20th anniversary, which is crazy. Um, please, I don't ask Disney that much, but re-release Tron Legacy in theaters before this new one and get people interested in it. Because a lot of people have ridden the ride but haven't seen the movie, I feel like. Anyway, it was a fun year. We got plenty of stuff coming out. The Harbor. Keep on watching. Because if we, like we talked about earlier, art for art's sake, we wouldn't still be making this.
No, we definitely don't
We've
get
been making this for
royalties.
4 years, haven't made any money on it. We do it because we care and we have fun here. We like to talk about stuff, you know. So tell your friends if you're here and you've been here for a while, thank you. Because we're just getting started in 2025. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.